Hi, Juan. How are you?
Doing well.
Thank you for joining my podcast. I'm happy you accepted my invitation. Juan, today we're going to talk about identity theft. You are the person I know that went through something like that, and I am very happy that you're willing to share this story. But first, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do?
I'm originally from Venezuela. I am a consultant. I have a consulting business, and it's been about 5 or 6 years since I had my identity stolen.
What is identity theft?
Well, it may come in many forms, but if someone's tried to steal your Hulu password or your Netflix password, that could be a way of identity theft. Is anyone trying to mimic who you are and take advantage of what you have? In my case, I had someone use my personal information to try to get some financial gain from my credit.
How did you find out?
I find out when I saw deductions in my checking account for payday loans companies. I called the bank. I said that wasn't me. They say they were investigated. And then I saw every week more and more coming in. I remember I had about maybe just $8,000 taken out in about 2, 3 weeks.
What did the bank do?
Well, the bank said they will open the case. I reported as fraud, so they were to close the account. They have to check first. So they did cancel the deductions or any type of deduction coming in from those same financial institutions. That stopped right there. Now, the problem that I faced, that was the immediate impact. That's how I find out. What happened later was that 2, 3 days after my wedding, when I'm coming back to Miami, I look at my credit score and I see 3 different credit cards. And I say, well, what the heck? So they try to create credit cards. It was from Wells Fargo, Chase, and Capital One. When I opened a case with them, I went to the police. And just at about that time, I had the bank, which was Wells Fargo, came back to me saying that those deductions were legitimate for the repayments. And I said, well, what the heck? I tried to contact those financial institutions. Someone somehow, what they did, they had a copy, a mimic copy of my ID, which looked, because the bank will send you the documents back. They had a copy of my ID, a legitimate old one, just a copy. And then they had pay stubs from my employer. Whatever it is, I don't know how they got it. That made it legitimate. There was legitimate application process. They put the wrong address, but it was still an old good address. So it was accepted. So from the bank's perspective, everything was legitimate. And then I say, well, why would I have to pay this? I didn't do this. Then I did file a police report. They had an investigator. What it came down to was someone in Del Mar, California. That's where they applied. That's where the API was linked to for the applications online. The person they'll never know. But to conclude, eventually what happened was I didn't repay that. The payday loans were taken out, but I had to settle those 3 accounts they opened because I tried to close them right away. And what was funny is that when I asked to close them, they wanted to have my ID identification, and they wanted to confirm it's me. And when I'm trying to close it, they were telling me, well, but your ID doesn't match what you currently have in the system. And I'm going nuts. Eventually, I was able to give them passport to be able to prove more identity than the one they used to apply, because the fraud case was denied. Although it was the same name, same person, same social security, it was like 2 different people. What I ended up doing with that is I had almost 800 credit score, and after that, I think it went to 530. That was the most painful part. I have to settle each of those accounts and pay them, and I'm still paying the consequences of that. I have, average credit right now until they come out. It's going to be in about 2 years, because it takes about 7 years to be able to get them out, because I couldn't do it legally.
How much did it cost you?
Well, what they stole plus what I pay for settling, plus, and I'll tell you what, there's, at the end of all this, end up working for the best, and I'll explain you why. But they took about 8,000 in one car, 10,000 in another, and it was 15 in one in another one. I settle the 15,001 for, I think, 8,000. The Chase one for 2,500, and the Capital one was the 8,000, and then the Wells Fargo one for 5,000 something. If you see what they took out on the payday loans that they deducted directly from my checking were returned, that was eventually returned, but it took some time. What I had to pay back to settle the accounts, plus the attorneys to pull that off, everything was like 20 something, I guess, at the end. I couldn't use my credit. I had perfect, all of my accounts were always excellent and perfect, except for those 3 accounts. I settled them, but still I need to have them removed, and that will be all. I think after that, what we came through is that I developed the habit of not having credit cards, and I just lived out of the cash that I have, and I always have my credit profiles completely frozen. So if I want to go and apply for a vehicle or whatever it may be, well, first I will know I will be declined back then. Now I can be accepted, but I will have to then go to my computer and unlock them. I will recommend to everybody to just have always their credit frozen at all times. If you're not applying for something, don't have it open, period.
That means not using credit cards?
Once you have the credit, your credit history is reported to something called credit bureaus. And there are 3, there's Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. In order for you to get a credit in any way and if you want to borrow money anywhere, they're going to look at the history of those 3 reporting agencies. That's where everything you have gets reported to, and you get a score. And that's what a credit score comes from. What happened to me was someone saw a good credit score, take advantage, or apply without knowing and took advantage. What I do now is just always have the access, because you can freeze the accounts of each one of those entities, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. If anybody tries to use your identity to borrow some money, it will be automatically declined because the account is frozen. You can froze it just by logging in and creating an account and putting your information. I do that with my wife, and my wife just now, actually, about 2 weeks ago, and you may want to speak with her, she received a Capital One credit card, and she said, "Oh, I always get those." And I said, "What do you mean? You just get a credit card from Capital One?" And yeah, she had to call the bank and tell it was fraud, and the bank said, "Well, apparently it is true. Whoever tried to get a credit card under her name sent it to the wrong address," which was hers.
Wow.
It is everywhere.
It's crazy. I've never heard about it before I moved to America, but I know that it's very, very popular and dangerous. And you will never find out who did that, right? Was the police helpful?
No, they will tell you there's an investigation open. If anything comes through, they will let you know. But there are thousands of these cases a day. There are more important things to do than to fight those crimes.
I always thought that it's about social security number, but you said it can be anything else. It can be ID and passwords.
Correct, yeah. And, they also steal the numbers from your debit cards and your credit cards. Mm-hmm. That they have those chips that scan. So it's just about getting information that you can use for financial gain. And the consequences, depending on how hard you get hit, it's going to be harder to recover, and it does take some time. So what I learned is, one debit card, one account. I don't want to have a credit card. I have one with like super low minute, just in case, just to have something. Otherwise, my credit is frozen completely. So if I apply for anything, it will be not even for a vehicle. It will have to be a home. That's it. And otherwise, I'm not using credit.
Yeah. I see. So how did it affect you?
Well, it was very stressful because At the beginning, when I had the money taken out, I had to pay rent. I was paying my mom's mortgage. My wife was in New York living there, so I was paying also half of her rent. So, there were a lot of people that depended on me. So just having cash suddenly just taken away and not knowing, it was very frustrating. But really, what really affected me was it changed the way now I use money. I don't like using the credit card. I don't apply for credits for anything, no stores. Just don't give out your information. That's what you're doing. Apply here, you're giving out your information. Apply there, you're giving out your information. So the less you apply, sure, it might not grow your credit score, but the less you apply, the less someone else may have access to have it. So I think where mine gets stolen was I applied for a home. And although we knew someone in Del Mar, California, and that's where the routing was, I know that's where I gave all of that information, which was the lender. That's my intuition. That's where I gave all of my information thoroughly. And like 3 months later, someone else uses it. So what it does is that, oh, I have access to that information. Let me just give it to someone else to do the stuff or to sell it. And I think that was where I was very exposed. And I'm sure that's where it happened. I have no proof, but impossible to get good copies of my pay stubs with updated dates from my same employer. Yeah.
So how long did it take you to solve it or get back on your feet basically from this?
4 years, maybe. I'm still recovering, still not over. Until I don't see those accounts clear, which will be the next 2 years, I cannot tell you that I recovered. I'm still recovering. Yeah.
And did you manage to grow back your credit score?
Yes, I did with time. I did because I settled the accounts. They did help, but still, it doesn't help that you settle the accounts. So I just have to wait until they're out. I did try to fight them legally. It was a waste of money, and I did spend like probably $5,000-6,000 trying to fight it to get them out. It's not going to go out if they use legitimate stuff.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and also for giving your advice. I think that's very valuable to hear it firsthand from someone who went through all this, and hopefully it's going to help someone who's already going through it or maybe prevent from happening. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
No problem. My pleasure.
Thank you.